Um, I'm supposed to follow that? Okay. I'm Andy Perez with 411mania.com, and you are watching Dissecting Dynamite. And what the fuck just happened is what I want to know. Okay. If you know, make sure you comment in the chat. And while you're there, why don't you like? Why don't you subscribe? And why don't you share this video so that other AEW fans can come on and give their reaction too, because we have a lot to discuss, ladies and gentlemen, and to share in the madness. Coming along on this journey is a repeat guest and the host of the 411 on Wrestling podcast, Mr. Blake Lovell. Blake, we're going to go ahead and break format. We're not going to go in order of the show because a lot just unfolded, and I want to know your thoughts on it. We have a brand new AEW champion in Kenny Omega with Don Callis giving the assist, and it looks like we may have to do a show on Tuesday because it looks like Kenny Omega is going to be on Impact. What the heck is going on, Blake? What the heck is going on? And by the way, how are you? So I totally missed that.
Well, I'm great. You and I have spent the last hour watching all this, and we picked a good show, I think, because a lot has happened. And it's funny, Andy, because you would think that Sting returning to TNT would be that's like such a huge deal, right? But now it's like, wait a second, is that the big deal, or is it the fact that the AEW champion, a new AEW champion, by the way, is going to Impact on Tuesday night? Like, that's going to be the highest rated Impact in a long time, don't you think?
I mean, it has to be. Okay, so I'm sitting here talking to you about Kenny Omega, and I completely forgot the Sting situation that just happened an hour ago. That's how bombastic this final half hour of AEW Dynamite was tonight. But what I want to know is, you guys watching at home, what the heck is going through your mind right now? We have so much to speak about tonight. So we might as well I guess we might as well start off from the beginning, because we have the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal kicking off the show. Oh gosh, this feels like it was months ago. That was such a jam-packed show. What are your thoughts on on this Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal that we saw unfold? It seems like months ago, but in reality, about 2 hours ago.
Honestly, Andy, when we do this, usually I don't usually have to pull up my notes because I usually have it on the top of my head. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. But like this battle royal, like you said, it feels like the year 2020. Like this was forever ago. But it was interesting. I mean, we saw lots of different storylines play out. Of course, you had Matt Hardy, which surprisingly, Matt Hardy was like the Kane of the match, where he's throwing out all these guys
Right.
left and right. Even throughout, who was it? Was it? I think it was Isaiah Cassidy. Maybe it was Mark Quinn. But so you've got you got the friction there now. He threw out Hangman. But now, we've got the Hangman Dark Order stuff. My guy John Silver, Alex Reynolds. They're really doing their best to get Hangman in there. And then the Inner Circle stuff, where now we've got MJF and Sammy going at it. You and I have talked about that before. We're really looking forward to that, I think, once they eventually have their match. So that sets up Orange Cassidy, MJF next week. So that's going to be a big
Oh
match, I'd
yeah,
say.
most definitely, most definitely. MJF and Orange Cassidy, two very, very clearly defined characters in AEW so far, and seeing them face off for such a grand prize. We all know how MJF feels about his Dynamite Diamond ring. Uh, yeah, a lot of scandal within the Inner Circle this week with everything else that was going on. It might very well be overshadowed, but the stuff going on with Sammy Guevara and MJF and Wardlow in this match was really, really entertaining. We have Jonas back in the chat again this week. Hello, Jonas. Hope you're doing well. Hope your week is treating you well. And he's talking about how good Miro looked in the match, and I have to agree with that. Miro finally looking like a
Yep.
monster. I know last time I had you on Dissecting Dynamite, you were talking about how you're just about done with the Miro gimmick that's going on. You've given it its run. You've given it its fair share of viewership, but you are just about checked out. Have your thoughts on Miro changed any since then? And what did you think of his performance in this match?
Yeah, no, I thought it was good. I think, Tony Khan, he had the media call yesterday, and there was, people were kind of pointing out the stuff that you and I
Hmm.
have pointed out before, right? Like in terms of talking about him and kind of what they've done overall with him and the whole gaming stuff. And yeah, I mean, this gave him a better opportunity, I think, to kind of be in more of that serious role. And that's what you want to see from him because I think. The problem is that, and we've said this, is that the way WWE used him, I think is like such
Right.
the issue, right? Where it's sort of like, okay, they used him to a way that a lot of us didn't agree with post riding the tank into WrestleMania. And so I just feel like it's one of those where it's easy to pick apart kind of the flaws of how maybe AEW's used him, but I think people just want him to be that mean, badass monster that we knew and we loved when he was riding that tank out into WrestleMania.
Yeah, most definitely. And the thing here is that we still get flashes of that Miro. We still get flashes of that Rusev, especially in this match, looking like a monster, and then coming out stomping around like he's mixed between King Kong and Godzilla there at the end at the end of the match, trying to get a hold of OC and the Best Friends. But yeah, like you said, OC and MJF facing off for the Dynamite Diamond next week. Make sure you guys come back and watch Dissecting Dynamite as we break down that, because it is sure to be entertaining. It always is with OC and MJF. But from there, another match that I've practically forgotten at this point, and that doesn't mean it's a bad match. That just means everything else was so dang good. Or
Yeah.
I don't even know if I can process it as good at this point. It was just something. It was all there. We had Jericho versus Frankie Kazarian, and I've been working on and you know this. I've been working on a Kurt Angle video as of late, and that'll be released on 411 here
Yep.
soon. And I just watched a Kaz versus Angle match back from like 2007 on TNA, and now years later, Kazarian's still in the ring, pulling out all the same stuff. I mean, it's crazy. What did you think of Jericho and Kaz matching up 1-on-1 this week?
I think Frankie Kazarian has had more matches than anyone in the history of wrestling. I just this guy is just he feels like and this is not to say it in a bad way, but like it feels like he's been around forever. But like he's been like he looks the same, like he
Mhm.
doesn't look any different. And this guy like doesn't age, and I think in the ring, like he's just you could put him in there with anyone, and I think that's why they put him. He's on Dark a lot. He's had a lot of matches on Dark, and he's had a ton of matches this year. Because you want to put him in there with anyone, like you want to put him in there with younger guys too, and just this guy's just so good. And I think this was one that, like I said, is interesting to think. Like these two have never kind of crossed paths before. So I thought that was interesting to kind of just think about the whole deal. But as we know, the whole point again here was to get to the inner circle stuff and to kind of, talk about everything that's going on there. And yeah, so now we're playing up MGF and Sammy even more, and now Jericho's pissed, and we've just got the ultimatum, I guess is what we're calling it now, going into next week. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Do we get the breakup? Do we get kind of the side split? I saw someone on Twitter use the NWO Wolfpack graphic. Did we get an NWO and NWO Wolfpack situation? I mean, they did go to Vegas, right? They had a hangover, so like you got the Wolfpack there. But I don't know what they do next week.
Yeah, we'll have an inner circle and an outer circle. Just a whole bunch of shapes going around each other. We have a couple
Thank
new
goodness.
viewers in the chat this week. Hello, we're glad to have you here at Dissecting Dynamite, and we have some questions. We have Pedram asking, why is AEW going to Impact? I thought they were two different companies. That's what we're all asking ourselves right now. We had Don Callis coming into the main event and just stealing it from Moxley, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. And we also have a special guest coming to give his thoughts, brother. But we'll see.
Yeah.
And then we have Theo trying to give an explanation, saying we're going to get an instant viewership spike since Impact is on Twitch. If Impact can hit, say, let's 50,000 views on Twitch, then it's worth it. So maybe it's maybe they're in with Miro going at the Twitch game, trying to get those Twitch numbers with Don Callis and Kenny Omega. We'll
Yeah.
see. But yeah, I have similar thoughts on this Jericho and Kaz match. I just thought it was really well put together with two veterans like this. You can't really do much wrong. If anything, we had Aubrey Edwards maybe being a bit lenient on her calls. Jericho always getting the better of refs, especially when the inner circle is there on the outside. And then we had MJF coming in about to throw in that towel. Sammy blocking it. and it looked like he was caught red-handed there. Definitely not on
Yeah.
Jericho's good side as of late, and MJF really that snake just slithering into place. Looking to tear apart the Dark Order, the inner circle from the inside, and like we said, maybe a Wolfpack situation. We may have the inner circle and the outer circle.
Yeah.
We may have the inner circle and the outer square. Who knows? We have a lot of options going forward, and whether or not they stay together next week, you guys will have to check back here at Dissecting Dynamite directly following next week's show just to find out. And then we have a bit of a Young Bucks promo coming in. Young Bucks facing off against TH2 next week, and we have the Acclaimed, brand new signed tag team coming in
Yes.
and trying to show what they have. And I don't want to give things away, but I might as well pull out my dud of the week a little bit early, and say this. This little exchange by the Acclaimed, I just wasn't feeling it. Wasn't feeling the rap game.
Oh, Andy,
I know.
come
I'm sorry. I'm
on.
sorry. I see we have a good amount of viewers right now. Don't click off just because I didn't like the rap.
Oh, that's it. The Max Caster fans, you just sent them running away. Come on, Max Caster is
I'm
the
sorry,
best.
guys. I'm sorry, guys. I just didn't hit it. I'm a bit of an amateur rap star myself. I have an alter ego that I call Anderson Adonis, and I may just have to go and freestyle on his ass because I think I can do it a bit better than him. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, come on. The Acclaimed. Oh, I love these guys. Of course, as the resident AEW Dark reviewer on 411 each week, I have just grown to love the Acclaimed. And I think a lot of people, when they got signed, they're like, wait a minute, why did they sign these guys? But if you watched them on AEW Dark, and I know it's not for everyone since the show has become like 2.5 hours long, but like him and Anthony Bowens have really created these cool personalities. And I know everyone calls him different names and like they just do spinoffs on John Cena. And I get it. Like he's using this. I understand. But I love these guys. Like I did not know if I was gonna love these guys, but I will tell you, the Acclaimed, Max Caster, like Anthony Bowens, they're great. And their ring stuff, like it'll get there. They're still young, but man, I think these are the it guys. I think that they're eventually going to be like that it team. And I'm not saying they're going to be the Young Bucks or anything like that, but I love these guys. So there you go. I'm not going to be welcome back, am I, Andy? I'm done now.
You know what, Blake? You crossed a line, and I'm not talking about TNA wrestling, but I'm saying you crossed a line tonight. No,
Look at that segue based on what we're going to talk later. That's a host right there.
always,
That's how you
always
do
on
it.
top of things.
So,
Always on top of things. But no, I don't want to give him too much flack. It just wasn't really my deal. And we have Jonas and wannabe trout fishers in the chat coming back and backing up your claims. And packing up the Acclaimed as well. But yeah, obviously they're fan favorites. They haven't turned me just yet. And they haven't turned me the way that the Young Bucks have turned, it seems like 5 or 6 times over the past couple months, because I guess they're full on baby faces again. It remains to be seen. But nonetheless, we have a women's matchup next, the AEW women's division, coming in with Britt Baker versus legit Leila Hirsch. I was into this match, but we both know how I feel about Hirsch. I mean, I was just thinking watching this match, she would be such a shoo-in for Team Taz. I mean, her suplexes. I mean, she just looks like a little female Taz, just super, super low center of gravity. Is the nicest way I can say short. So she has a super low center of gravity, and she's just hitting all those suplexes, has an amazing ground game, super crisp offense. And this match versus Britt Baker, I mean, what did you think of it?
oh, I love Leila Hirsch. Like, I've talked about her like ever since the first time she was on Dark I guess it's probably been over a month ago now, but like you could just tell right away. Like she was it. Like she's different than anything else they have. The female Kurt Angle, Taz, whatever you want to call her, like that's just what she seems like. And I'm with you. I think if they decide to sign her, which I don't know why they wouldn't at this
exactly.
point. But she was great. Yeah, I mean she was fantastic, and I think putting her in there with someone too like Britt Baker's good because they're different styles, and I just think Leila Hirsch is. They need to do what they need to do, like to continue having her on TV and not just Dark, because I just think that she brings out a different side of everyone because she just has such a different sort of approach. So I loved it. I loved that. I loved, the aftermath of having Thunder Rosa come back and attack Britt Baker. And it looks like, at least to me, Andy, based on how this thing finished, that we could maybe get Britt Baker and Rebel or Reba taking on Thunder Rosa and Leila Hirsch. I don't know if that was kind of the sense there, but when
That's what
we
I
saw
felt.
Rebel
Yeah.
kind of throwing the punch at, I guess she threw the punch at someone. Was it either Thunder Rosa or Leila Hirsch? But I feel like they have to be setting up this tag team match at some point.
And yeah, I'm all for it. Anything that gives the women's division more exposure, especially Layla, Britt, and Thunder Rosa. The three of them have been a highlight of the women's division. And speaking of the women's division, we had a promo by Sheeta, which we don't get very often as well. I know I'm jumping ahead just a
Yes.
bit, but yeah, I was talking.
We're trying to
Yeah,
get to the
yeah.
main event.
I was talking to you about it, before the show, but apparently Sheeta was an actress before she was a wrestler. So it surprised me that they haven't allowed her to flex those muscles. Of course, her still learning the language can be a bit of a detractor in that situation. But yeah, I'm excited to see Sheeta on TV, building some story against Abaddon. But yeah, that's going to be a really cool storyline moving forward as well. Speaking of moving forward, we have Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs versus Cody and Darby. And as much as this match was impressive, as much as I love Powerhouse Hobbs just wrecking things, and he was a wrecking ball during this match. If you're watching at home, let us know what you think about Powerhouse Hobbs, specifically the name change. I'm a fan of it, but more so, what I want to talk about is the aftermath, because it lit up the internet. I'm already on shopaew.com getting a Sting t-shirt because that looked badass. What did you think of this whole situation here? We have Sting in AEW, and you know what? We called it. We called it a month ago.
We did.
They just wanted to surprise us, and it turns out that they did. What did you think of this?
Surely, Andy, when we started talking about this a month ago, they said, all right, you know what? These guys on Dissecting Dynamite on the 411 on Wrestling podcast, we brought it up everywhere. And I think when we were there, like, all right, we gotta pivot here. We gotta go to something else. We gotta hold off Sting. But in all seriousness, it was nuts because I told you, I was like, since the time we had that conversation about Sting, I have not thought about Sting one time. Like, I have
Not at
not
all.
thought about this
Yeah.
guy at all since we said, if he doesn't appear at Full Gear, like, that's it. It's over. There's no chance. Let's just move on, okay? Let's not talk about it. I have not thought about him at once at all. Like, unless I was running through the WWE network looking at Nitros or something. Like, that's the only time it would have even popped into my mind. So this was insane. And I thought, when the lights went off, my first thought was, okay, hold on a second. Like, are we doing this? Like, is this going to be him? Because when the lights went, I was like, all right, they've got to bring in someone like that. I'm like, okay, who's the guy when turn the lights off? Okay, and so I'm started thinking. I see this video, and like, there's the bird up there, and I'm like, wait a second, like, is Raven coming here? Are we gonna have Raven popping up in this thing? But then, like, you see I thought it was cool how they did it. They had like the graphic where it had the Sting kind of in the block letters and all that. I thought that was fantastic. And then, of course, you've got the snow. It's just, I don't think they could have did this any better. And as we'll talk about, Andy, I think the placement was absolutely perfect on all levels. To have it right before the main event, because if you want to get all eyes on the main event, why would you not do that when they did it? And I think it was 100% just absolutely gold to do it there, because how many people switched over whenever they heard, oh my God, Sting's in AEW. And then they're saying, oh, wait, well, here's what we got next. We got the big main event championship match. So I know that's a tiny element compared to the bigger overall story of Sting, being here for apparently two multi-years now. Like, he's got a multi-year contract. But still, I don't think AEW could have did kind of that final hour. I don't think they could have did it any better in terms of how they set it up.
Most definitely, most definitely. And if you're watching at home, apologies. It looks like we're skipping a bit, but nonetheless, we have Theo back in the chat saying AW were given big hints about Sting with Darby sitting in the stands by himself, very similar to how Sting was in WCW Nitro. Yeah, Blake and I were here talking about that weeks back. So Theo, you were supposed to be here weeks ago, Theo, but we're glad to have you now. Better late than ever, you know what I mean? But yeah, the visuals of this, not the promo package, but his Titantron video leading into it was just so beautiful, so well produced, really built up some suspense for me. And then the visuals of Sting coming out with the snowfall well, I couldn't have painted a better picture in my mind if I tried my hardest. And as anybody that knows me knows, I am an artiste, so that's saying something. But yeah, like you said, wonderful lead into the main event. It put all eyes on AEW, and it put all eyes on the big match, which was Moxley versus Omega. But before we get into it, I've been hyping up a little bit a special guest that we have. I don't know how we got him, but somehow we got Hulk Hogan to come on and give his thoughts on this AEW main event. So Hulk Hogan, we're gonna send it off to you. Hulk, Immortal One. What did you think of Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega?
Let me tell you something, Jack. When you're looking at the greatest matches of all time, you got Hogan versus Andre, Hogan versus Warrior, Hogan versus Rock, and way down at the bottom of that list, you have the director of High School Musical, Kenny Ortega, versus Dean Ambrose. And it was electric, brother.
Okay. It seems like he got Kenny Omega mixed up with High School Musical 1, 2, and 3 director Kenny Ortega. Nonetheless, we're glad to have you here, Hulk. You're welcome back anytime. Okay, you have a big act to follow, Blake. So, what did you think of Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley?
No, brother. It's
a lot to unpack.
Anymore. That was a scene. There's a lot to take in. We're talking about Sting, Hogan, Omega, baseball bats, like all kinds of stuff. It's just insane. Anyways, I think we talked like we're watching the match, and I think having it like the way they did, where it was sort of like that slow build. You kind of built up. You had the start in the ring, then you went outside. You had all kinds of different layers added to the match, and I thought the match was really good. I mean, as you would expect, they gave it probably 30 minutes. I want to say it went at least 30 minutes. Yeah, so I think that was obviously the right call. As we talked about, I hate the fact, I know these companies have to earn money, but I just I wish they didn't have to have commercials during this stuff, but that's what pay-per-view's for, right? I get it. But we expected it. Like I said from the beginning, I thought that, Omega winning right now was the right call. It made sense. It was the biggest match you could have, and now, as we know, what happens next with Moxley? Because we saw him towards the end of that match, like he sort of lost it a bit. And like that was, I don't want to say it's a different side of Moxley because we've seen like the crazy Moxley and stuff, but it was an interesting side, I thought, to the way that thing ended, just for Moxley. But then, of course, on the Kenny Omega front, I mean, I don't know what they do from here. Obviously, this sets up something we have not seen in a long time in terms of, okay, he's got the belt. Don Callis is the guy that was there. We're all hyping up the New Japan thing, right? We're thinking this is the New Japan point. But even if you're someone who was waiting for this New Japan thing, the fact that Kenny Omega is going to be on Impact next Tuesday, and I think that makes it clear that they have opened up all the possibilities here, and that there's a lot of things they're going to be able to do moving forward, right? And that just makes it incredible. They have made it clear, and Cody said it so many times, Tony Khan said it, Omega said it. Like they will work with anyone. And I think this was a perfect idea to do that. People may say that AEW gains nothing from this. I don't think that's true. I think it creates a buzz. I think it makes it a lot more intriguing if you're a fan. But certainly for Impact, like this is significant. And honestly, I'm glad this is happening because I don't think Impact has gotten enough credit for what they've done probably since this pandemic started. Like I know they haven't had a crowd. They have different situation, but I think Impact has been really fun to watch. I think they've got a lot of good characters on there. And I think this opens up so many possibilities. I'm already looking on Twitter right now as we're talking. Like I'm seeing people throwing out all these possible matches. I saw one on there throw out Jericho versus Shamrock. Oh my gosh, how crazy would that be to have Chris Jericho versus Ken Shamrock in 2020? But you know what? Like that's a possibility. Like there's so many ways you can go with this. So
yeah, I'm still at a bit of a loss for words because, I mean, just the announcement of AEW and Impact. coming together. That type of cross promotion, it just doesn't really happen very often in wrestling. And the bait and switch, we have it. We have it in the chat. Jonas talking about Kenta with his tweet saying wait until Wednesday. Bait and switch. And then of course we had Tony Khan coming in saying Moxley's not wrestling at Wrestle Kingdom, which I know that's not directly connected to this, but it's. I mean, everyone's thinking New Japan, and then all of a sudden we get Impact. It's crazy. It's crazy. And to see, oh gosh, I'm just so excited moving forward. And I know you guys watching at home are too. So make sure you come back every single week to see what the heck is going on Dynamite and talk about it with us. Oh gosh,
I can't stop smiling, Andy. I'm just being honest. Like this is a fun time, right? Because I look at it and I'm like, man, I get it. Like people can say this stuff's good and we can critique everything and all that, but I think we got to realize like this time we're in right now, you can compare it to every different era. Maybe it's not the Attitude Era, maybe it's not the late 80s, WWF, like all this stuff, but there is so much like there's just so many different things you see out there now. And I think to have some of these companies working together, like to me, it just makes it so exciting because there's so many possibilities, so many ways you can go. And if this catapults AEW into working with New Japan, with other promotions, whoever, it's only good for wrestling. Like if you're a wrestling fan, why would I not want to see this happen? So I love it.
Most definitely. And it looks like everybody around the world loves it. Theo in the comments saying that he's not in North America, not even in the Northern Hemisphere. So yeah, it looks like everybody's on board for what AEW is about to do with Impact, and all I know is that I'm going to be tuning in on Tuesday night. I know you're going to be writing about AEW Dark, so I'll have to give you the updates. But but yeah, it is going to be crazy. Speaking of crazy, a lot of great wrestlers had great weeks this week. So what I want to know from you and from the people watching at home, who do you guys think was this week's Wrestler of the Week? Blake, what are your thoughts?
I mean, you have to give it to Kenny Omega, right? I mean, he's the new champion. I know it's hard not to pick Sting, but like that's the craziness of it is like Sting just came back. Like he's on TNT in 2020, and I guess because Sting wasn't in a wrestling capacity, I won't pick him. But wow, I think you've got to go with Kenny Omega. The way everything ended to win this, and just to see his character go from where it was maybe to where it is now, it's incredible. It's fascinating, and man. Kenny Omega versus Sting. How about that? Let's get that for the title down the road. I'm just kidding. I know some people probably don't want to see that, but listen, it's a possibility, right? So.
I mean, if Sting was enthused enough to get in there with Seth Rollins, then I'm all for it for him to get in there with Kenny Omega. I cannot disagree. Kenny Omega is also my Wrestler of the Week. I know we don't have that very often. I know I like to give a bit of a different take on things. There is no different take. Kenny Omega is walking out of the building with the AEW World Title in his hands. He is unequivocally, without a doubt, the Wrestler of the Week. And we also had like we said, the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal this week. I don't know if that was particularly my Dynamite Diamond of the Week. What did you think? What was your favorite moment of the night? And I think I may have a guess.
I guess... I was going to say, maybe that's fair. Like, we give Omega the wrestler, then we give Sting the favorite moment. So I think that's pretty easy to do. And like, I mean, look, we go back to it, too. Think about how much they hyped up this episode. And I think there's always that in the back of your mind, you're always thinking, okay, are they going to overhype something? Which Tony Khan did, by the way, as we know, several weeks ago with the Pac thing. Like, we had everybody running wild, and Pac was a great surprise. But everybody then was, like, thinking all this crazy stuff. But I have to give it to them. They completely delivered. Like, this was everything I think you could want. Just
and more.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I don't even know what you say. Yeah.
Yeah. Theo, thanks for joining us this week. It looks like Theo has to go, but Theo, thanks. Join us next week as well.
Thank you.
And yeah, we have a Praynav Gaming Zone in the comments for the first time I've seen them agreeing with us, saying that Omega wins, and I'd have to agree with that as well. I mean, we're in joyous agreement this week. Sting is without a doubt the Dynamite Diamond of the Week. I've already given my thoughts on the Dynamite Dud of the Week. There weren't a lot of duds this episode, but I want to know, what did you think was the worst part of this week's episode of Dynamite? You guys watching at home, I want to hear what you guys have to say as well.
Yeah, that's a good question, right? Because I'm still like on that level. Like I can barely remember everything that happened like in the first hour of the show, and that's not to knock anything. It's just like that second hour was so insane. I don't know. How about this? I'm just gonna go like Kenta didn't show up. There you go. There's my dud of the week. Like everyone thought that Kenta was gonna show up, so there you go. Kenta wasn't there, and that's sorry, Kenta. I know you were in there. You're in the state, but I kept holding out hope you were gonna show up tonight. However, Andy, I think this dud is going to turn into a diamond at some point because I think we're going to see it eventually. It just wasn't tonight. So
Exactly. It'll surely turn into a diamond. We just need to give it a bit more pressure, and I'm sure the AEW fans around the world are going to be doing that on Twitter tonight, saying, "Where the heck was Kenta? We wanted to see Kenta's face poking out of that car when Kenny Omega and Don Callis were getting away at the very end." But nonetheless, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. We have had quite a night. We have had quite a week. We have a new AEW World Champion. We have Sting and AEW, and next week we have a whole lot more to look forward to. Next week we have MJF versus Orange Cassidy to see who gets that Dynamite Diamond. We have the Young Bucks versus the Hybrid 2. Will they be able to give the Hybrid 2 their comeuppance after that attack during the promo? We have Dustin versus 10. Not that interested in that one, but I'm still going to keep this tone of voice. We have FTR versus Varsity Blondes. Glad to see FTR back in action again. Will the Inner Circle survive? We have an ultimatum to see next week. And then we have Abaddon in action. But most of all, we have a brand new AEW World Champion, Kenny Omega, speaking this week on Impact, as well as Sting speaking at AEW Dynamite. Blake, before we head out, what are you looking forward to most next week? And do you have anything to plug before we say goodbye?
well, I mean, I guess I should plug the AEW Dark review each week, but I feel like everyone's going to be watching Impact next week. So, come on, AEW, counter programming here. Give me do like a special 5-match edition of AEW Dark next week to really help me out there. But no, in all seriousness, like you said, I mean, we've got all the great stuff you're doing here on the 411 YouTube channel, and then the 411 on Wrestling podcast. If you want a podcast to listen to, you can find us there. Any podcast app you use, you can check it out. Andy was my most recent guest as we hyped up this match and made our predictions for what we thought would happen. Of course, we did not mention Sting at all. We didn't mention Impact Wrestling, so what do we know? But yeah, check out 411 on Wrestling Podcast, and you can follow me on Twitter at Wrestle.
You heard it. We have some great content coming for you here at the 411 Mania YouTube channel, including a wonderful Kurt Angle documentary that we have premiering very, very soon. So keep a look out for that. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you next week. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share. I'm Andy Perez. That's Blake Lovell. Have a good one.